Ready? All right, everyone, could you please all have a seat so we can begin our meeting? Thank you. I would like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular board meeting of the Farmington Public Schools Board of Education held on this Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Could we have a roll call, please?
You may. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Ms. Weems.
Here.
Ms. Heinrich.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
I myself am here. Dr. Blau.
I am also here.
You have a quorum.
Wonderful. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We begin this evening with recognitions that are close to my heart, the Galileo leadership cohorts. I was in the very first cohort back in 97, 98. And so I'm very excited to celebrate those of you who have been having the experience as well as those of you who are about to begin it. Dr. Delgado?
Thank you, Dr. Blau, and I will turn it over to Dr. Coffin to introduce our Galileo leaders.
Hello, good evening, board. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share and celebrate our outgoing cohort and meeting our new upcoming cohort. So if the Galileo leaders, current and future, want to come on up over here. So thank you, Dr. Blau, for that great introduction as a former Galileo leader. So for those who may not have been part of this opportunity, just a reminder that this is really advancing the development of teacher leadership here in Oakland County to ensure equitable access to high-level learning, higher levels of learning for all. And of course, we know this is especially near and dear to our hearts here in Farmington, as Dr. Bob Maxfield is really, after he retired from as a superintendent of Farmington Public Schools, he launched the Galileo Institute in his work in partnership with Oakland University. So we continue to support this amazing endeavor and opportunity for our teachers. So I want to just call out our current cohort members. So we had three educators, Roisin Hunter, Monica Brennan, and Yevgeny Pokalo, who were all part of our current Galileo cohort and will be recognized this week at our final culmination ceremony. And then we will also introduce our new cohort members. So before I introduce our new members, I'd like to ask Roisin and Monica are here with us, maybe to share a little bit about their experience with the board.
Hello. So my name is Monica Brennan, and I teach grade 2 at Gill. And one of the most, thank you for this opportunity to be part of Galileo. And one of the most impressionable things that I got from this was the sense of community. We talk a lot about the profile of a learner here in Farmington, the profile of an educator, and in the center of it is relationships and community. And when I actually applied for Galileo, it was my first year in Farmington, my 11th year teaching, but my first year teaching in Farmington. And I thought, why not? I don't really know what this is, but let me go see. And the sense of community that I got, not only when I went to the Galileo meetings and met with teachers across the Tri-County, but also the opportunities it gave me to meet other people within Farmington Public Schools. It just really made me feel valued here as someone who switched where they were after a decade and moved to be closer to home. And as someone whose children will go to FPS schools, it made me feel like the community here at Farmington is something that is prioritized because you do make an effort to send teachers to Galileo. And then the Galileo teachers have been meeting frequently. And so just that sense of community is something that I know brings so much to the education system here because I see it in my own classroom, how much community can make an impact. So it makes me feel like that type of community being prioritized makes me feel confident as someone who not only works here but also lives here as well. So thank you for that opportunity.
Good evening, Roisin Hunter. I teach third grade at Wood Creek. I signed up in my 27th year of teaching, and I'd heard so much about it, and it was an amazing experience for us. It was very inspiring. We were introduced to so much. It was very heavy knowledge-based, and there were so many great things that we learned about. And I loved how, when you're with a group of teachers, everybody understands each other, you know, this huge room of teachers. Everybody gets everybody. But like Monica said, the sense of community, but also I have to say that I would leave there a lot of times feeling like, wow, Farmington's doing something right, when we talk to a lot of the different schools and the different things that they're adopting. And I always walked away proud to be an FPS employee. It was just like, I'm looking forward to Thursday night, we graduate. And there is just, I'm a better person for having been through this for 2 years. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
So now I'd just like to take a moment and introduce our new cohort. So when I call your name, if you would just want to come up and join me. So Marley Bellinger, one of our teachers at Forest Elementary. Angelina Lowe is one of our Lanigan Elementary educators. Cassandra McMichael is also one of our Lanigan Elementary educators. And then Lisa Shenton is our high school representative from North Farmington High School. I'll tell you, since I've been here trying to encourage people to apply for this, it was kind of, you know, COVID happened and it kind of fell off a little bit. This was one of the toughest decisions we had because we had so many educators interested. So I wish we could send 10, but you know, we send 4 each time in our cohort. So again, an amazing group of educators here, an amazing group of educators that were, you know, hopefully will apply for the next cohort. So just wanted to introduce them so you have a name and a face, and you'll see more of them over the next 2 years.
So I'm learning to appreciate, I've obviously never been through the program, but I hear so many great things about it. I'm really glad to see that Farmington is supporting this. I'm really glad to see some of the teachers that I know are going through that. You guys were amazing already, so I can only imagine how much more amazing you are and will be. Thank you for committing to something like this and furthering professional development. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Not to take away from a lot that Ms. Weems just said, there's a couple of you that I do know, and I am not surprised that you all are in this. The other 2 that I don't know, congratulations as well, but this is something that I would have expected from the other 2 that I do know. So I know if these 2 were picked, I know the other 2 must be just as amazing and as epic as the 2 that I do know. So congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
I just want to thank you for committing your time. Teaching is such a big, demanding job, and this is above and beyond your regular classroom duties. And it just really speaks highly of each of you as an individual, of our district to provide this opportunity. And this is something that we see across the district. It's just our commitment of all of our teachers to go above and beyond just the minimum requirements in the classroom. So thank you for your time. And I'm just can't wait to hear the exciting things that you're learning and bringing back to the district, because it's a win-win. When we send leaders out, you're going to come back and lead and share the things so everybody wins in the district. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So many of the things that I learned during my 2 years in Galileo have stayed with me and have come up as meaningful, important, and impactful in many surprising ways over the years. And as our graduating colleagues can attest, you will learn a lot of the things you anticipate and a whole bunch of other things that you never could have imagined. And I'm so excited for you to begin this experience. So congratulations again, and congratulations to our graduating cohort. Next, we have our CTE
That we do.
recognitions.
And it looks like Mrs. Hendrickson is coming up to the podium.
Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Delgado. As we think about teacher leadership, we also want to think about student leadership. So we have a number of students every year through our CTE program that participates in the CTSOs, which are student leadership competitions in all the areas of our programming. And so we have some amazing CTE teachers that are going to come up. So I want to call Kristen Patton up alongside with Janet Cadeau and Nina Mergette. These are three teachers. They're not only representing the CTSOs that they support, but also the CTSOs that their colleagues support. And so tonight we'll be giving recognition to students who have excelled at some of the highest levels in these CTEO competitions that are state, national, and international. So we'll first start with North Farmington High School, which will be Kristen Patton, and then we'll move to Farmington, where Janet and Nina will share some student recognitions there.
I would like to say Galileo leaders and the students who are going to be honored for their CTE accomplishments, if you would stay, we're going to have a short recess after this awards presentation so that we can come up and congratulate you personally. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
So Ms. Patton, come on up.
Hi, I'm Miss Patton. I'm the health science instructor, HOSA advisor at North, and honoring all the CTOs from North for you guys. First, I have the HOSA students, Johanna, and I'm not going to pronounce her last name because it's really hard. Thank you. And then Kaylee Pierce. And for our MITES program, we have Madison Punal.
Come on over here.
Just come on.
And for DECA, we have Jana Shaw. And Avani S., because her name's really hard too.
Pictures now? Are you doing pictures or just bring them all up? Hi, I'm Janet Cadeau. Good evening. It's nice to be here to present these awards. I'm the health science teacher and HOSA advisor at Farmington High School. And HOSA is an international organization, for those that don't know, that for students who are interested in pursuing a healthcare career. And students can choose from one of over 50 events, and they can qualify for a competition at the regional, state, and national levels. Tonight, we're representing or proud to introduce the three medalists that will be competing in Houston at the end of June. And we'd like to recognize them tonight for their international qualifying status. So Amrita Renduchintala placed third in medical law and ethics knowledge test. Deb Donnie, he placed second in prepared speaking on the topic of Dare to Create. He also entered a HOSA-sponsored SAMHSA Fent Alert PSA Challenge. That's a tongue twister. It's designed to educate teens about the risks of fentanyl use. He had nothing better to do over a break, and I sent the information out, and so he applied, and he received an honorable mention for his entry titled Among Us. He was awarded $2,000 for placing in the top 12 of nearly 200 entries. So we're very proud of that accomplishment as well as his HOSA work. And Zainab Ahmed placed third in the clinical specialty event, second in the career development test, and her most greatest recognition tonight is she qualified to be a state officer for the 2024-25 Michigan HOSA State Board. So very proud of her accomplishment there and look forward to representing her. Good job. Excited. She's Farmington's second HOSA State Board representative, so pretty proud of that. On behalf of Mrs. Dial, the FHS BPA advisor, I'd like to recognize two students who are national qualifiers, Sanjith Gautam, second place Linux Operating System Fundamentals, and Akshay Kumar, sixth place Python Programming National Qualifier. Congratulations to all of you on a job well done, and good luck to HOSA participants in Houston. And Ms. Mergette will present the DECA Awards.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nina Mergette, former North Farmington graduate. Here I am, back in the district for 20 years, been having a good time after a career in sales in the oil industry. I'm excited to present these outstanding marketing students. DECA is a very rigorous organization, and we started out with 48 students in our DECA chapter this year, of which 39 made it to states. And out of those 39, we took 16 to our international competition, which was in Anaheim, California. And it was a truly exciting experience if you talk to the kids afterwards. We had students place in the top 10 in their category and top 20 in their international category, 22,000 students from 7 countries. So it's quite a feat, and they have to study very hard and put a lot of their own time in. But I also want to recognize 2 gentlemen who are my co-advisors. Come up here, guys. I know you don't want to come up, but I'm going to make you. These 2 gentlemen are former Farmington graduates as well, and they are community members. This is Tom English with Fox Motors, and this is Dave Ehrlich. They both work very closely with our students at Farmington and have helped them succeed. They attend the competitions, they prep the students, they get them ready. So they are awesome community members who are really assisting our students to flourish in the business realm. So I really appreciate their time and their own personal time. So that's very nice. But I'm going to recognize some students here. Nithya. All right. Ashika. Akshay is double dipping with BPA and DECA, so he's a very driven young man. We have Hasi. Hasi and her partner placed top 10 internationally. And last year they went to internationals as sophomores, and as juniors they made it to top 10. So I've already told her and her partner that next year we have big plans for DECA Glass coming home, placing first, second, or third. So they're going to be studying all summer. So, just so you know, they already know. All right, Sahasra. All right, last but not least, I'd like to recognize our DECA president, Kennedy Williams, who earned a gold in our international competition for our school store, the Falcon's Nest. Many of you I know have been to our school store. It is a fabulous student-run business that the kids work very hard at, so she has won that. But I also want to let you know, she was also commended by Oakland Schools, and she received the Outstanding CTE Student of the Year from Oakland Schools, and she was recognized at a ceremony there last month. So double applause for Kennedy Williams. Yay, go DECA.
We would like to take a 5-minute recess so that we can congratulate all of you. Back in session. All right, items from the president. Approval of the agenda. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the agenda for the Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Education be approved as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Ms. Heinrich, seconded by Ms. Weems. Any discussion? Yes?
I did have, the last meeting, I did have a conversation with the board about talking about amendment for the last meeting. I'm not going to do it tonight, but we didn't have any discussion or the board reached out to regarding what I wanted to put on, but I'm not doing that tonight. So when you get the opportunity to reach out and we can discuss so that it can go on the agenda for next meeting. Not tonight.
Right.
I'm just doing the discussion.
So you would like me to reach out to you?
Well, that's what you said in the last meeting, that you were going to reach out in the last meeting regarding the motion that I have done for.
Okay.
Thank you.
By email or text, right?
Email or text.
You got it.
Not
Okay.
by phone. Thank you.
Yes. All righty. Is there any further discussion around the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. I wanted to alert everyone that if you are going to make public comment, the cards are on the back table. Also, a few meetings ago, Dr. Delgado and our DEI director, Mr. Greg Smith, put together for all of us and for the community 2 handouts. One is a front and back, these are also on the back table, a front and back handout that describes all of the ongoing work related to DEI that we are involved in our district. We have a second handout that lists the expectations that we have of our students in terms of their behavior, as well as the expectations for teachers, staff, and substitutes. So we have both of these handouts available on the back table for you, if you wish. All right. A couple of announcements. We thank you for your interest in attending or viewing our Farmington Public Schools Board of Education meeting. The Open Meetings Act requires that all meetings of the Board of Education be held in public. As a result, our board meetings are the only place and time that we, as a full board, can legally work together on district matters. While these board meetings are held in public for the purpose of full transparency, they are not public meetings. While you are welcome to attend our board meetings in person or watch from elsewhere, we must take the time needed to address, discuss, and hear presentations on all matters of importance to our work for the district. Furthermore, we, the members of the FPS Board of Education, together with our superintendent, have agreed to abide by the following standards of behavior when interacting with one another, both during our board meetings and elsewhere, even when we disagree with one another's points of view. They are as follows. Listen actively, no sidebars. Respect people and ideas. Presume positive intent. Use electronic devices respectfully and stay engaged in the meeting. Listen to learn, not to defend. And be brave, be vulnerable. We thank our community members for abiding by these standards of behavior as well. At our last board meeting, Ms. Smith, you proposed that we add an item to our agenda to discuss an education plan that was presented to the board by a community member. And I have reached out to the community member to discuss this. So allow me to explain. This is a conversation I've already had with several community members who have plans that they recommend that we adopt for Farmington Public Schools. There are very specific guidelines that define our role as the Public Board of Education. 3 years ago, when 4 of us were new to the board, the 8 of us, the 7 board members plus Dr. Delgado, who was also new at the time, the 8 of us spent a lot of time learning which responsibilities belong to the board and which responsibilities belong to the superintendent and his cabinet, administrators, teachers, and staff members. We, the board, have only one employee, our superintendent, Dr. Delgado. Before the start of each school year, we, as a board, discuss and determine a list of priorities for the upcoming school year, for which he is then responsible. These are the SMART goals we set for ourselves each year before the school year begins. Dr. Delgado then works together with his team to ensure that these priorities are addressed. This is the way in which we as a board provide direction for the district. While we help shape the district's priorities each year, we are not involved in the day-to-day operations of the school district. Recently, as I said, and as Ms. Smith pointed out as well, a community member proposed an education plan for the district based upon his own priorities and knowledge. He reached out to all 7 of us. 5 of us have met with him thus far to hear about his plan and discuss it in detail with him. I have met with this individual multiple times over the course of the past 3 years. He has met at length with Dr. Delgado, Dr. Coffin, Mrs. Hendrickson, and our district head of finance, Mrs. Kaminsky. I called this community member directly and explained to him that his proposed education plan was not something that the board would typically discuss because curriculum, instruction, and programming decisions of this sort are made by the superintendent and his team, not board members. We set the goals, the priorities, and then we monitor the superintendent's progress in moving the district forward toward these goals. We are not education experts, and we entrust our superintendent and his highly qualified team of administrators, teachers, and staff to make the best curriculum, instruction, and programming decisions for our students. Whether you agree with this approach or not, this is the nature of board service and the very definition of the working partnership between superintendents and the school boards they serve. As a result, we will not be discussing the details of the education plan proposed by this or any other community member during this or any other board meeting. Dr. Delgado takes all of the information of this nature back to his cabinet where together they discuss these recommendations from the community. I therefore refer you and anyone else who might have an education plan or idea to schedule a meeting with Dr. Delgado, Dr. Coffin, or Mrs. Hendrickson, as they are the curriculum, instruction, and programming experts within Farmington Public Schools. I also wish to clarify that no decisions are made at any of our committee meetings. The committee meetings give us an opportunity to hone in on some of the specific details around policy, finance, community engagement and communication, but no decisions are made at those meetings. Okay, I think that is all. Items for the secretary.
Thank you. The board has received communications regarding strategies and recommendations for supporting mental health and education plan. The 2023-2024 PIR is now open in HSES. Lunchtime, an education plan motion, and 3/5/2024 public comment handout, honors classes in middle schools, and this is how Farmington defines equity. The board acknowledges communications and responds when appropriate. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, accessible on the Farmington Public Schools website.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. Moving on to our legislative update. Mr. Rich?
Sure, just a quick update on a few things. The Special Education Alternative Certification Extension was sent to the governor last week. That was Senate Bill 5518, which extends to 2027 the sunset on the provision to allow special education teachers to receive interim certificates. The House and Senate both passed those bills unanimously, and so it's an alternative path to make it easier for schools to employ special education teachers and as a way to address the current shortage. And it's expected that the governor is going to approve it, extending that sunset until 2027. Another thing is the safe storage information bills were adopted. So that's the House Education Committee approving House Bills 5450 and 5451, which would require information on the new laws regarding safe storage of firearms to be provided to all parents and families annually. And so that would be a document created by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, which is then distributed by the districts every year by October 1st, beginning in 2025. The bills were adopted on a party line vote and are now before the full House for consideration. And then lastly was just a look at the current budget. Again, budget process is lengthy. It takes a lot of time to not only go with all three different budgets, the governors, the Houses, and the Senates, working those through committees and through their conferences. Right now, we're looking at the school aid fund revenues coming in about $160 million less than expected in January for the fiscal year. And so looking at the 24-25 fiscal year, the fund will start with approximately $426.7 million and see a 2% increase from 23-24. But again, that's a $160 million less than the projected in January. And so the legislature and governor now establish those target budget numbers, work through that, and while we're continuing to push for the school budget to be done as early as possible, we're also pushing for it to be done no later than the end of June, but we've always seen how that goes. So we're hopeful, but we will see what ends up happening as those conferences work together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that thorough report, Mr.
Don't forget the free and reduced lunch got redone too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not only something that's like a budgetary thing, but also looking at having it be put into actual law, so that's not a dependent on the budget. It's then being looked at to be just codified, so it's just a thing that happens every year instead of having to go through the budget process.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next, moving on to district updates. Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. Good evening to our board and to the public. So I'll be brief because we have a very important update to give after my few remarks. So first thing, I'll stick with the legislative aspect. So just today, the K-12 Alliance, which is the leading educational policy advocacy group that we are part of, that I'm part of, was in Lansing for an advocacy day with legislators, and actually were able to meet with Governor Whitmer, and so we're able to share their thoughts. I was originally signed up for it, but we had some very important interviews to do today, so I stayed back in the district. But again, we're advocating for continued support of public education, as well as protection of the school aid fund that has traditionally, historically been rated for, colleges and universities. We're also, as Mr. Rich said, really advocating that they get their budget done, at least the educational portion of the budget, well prior to our deadline of June 30th, which gives Mrs. Kaminsky and her team actual numbers to work with as opposed to assumptions or projected numbers. And so that happened today, a full House and a very favorable group of individuals, legislators who are leading our educational subcommittees, who actually are former educators. So we appreciate that support. Second thing, congratulations to our student roundtable. I know I won't steal Mrs. Heinrich's fire because I know she's got to give an update a little bit later, but we had our final meeting yesterday. Incredible young people, and we just congratulated them on pulling off their first ever career fair. Took them about 2 years of coordinating, and they were really proud of themselves as well as very reflective. And so I'll leave it at that because I know Ms. Heinrich I'm sure will be excited to share some of that information. Last Friday, I was at a meeting of the Oakland County Superintendents that was hosted by the DIA, and we met with educational planners and programmers there, and they reminded us of the wonderful gem of the Detroit Institute of Arts that we have right here in our community, and the free educational programs, including transportation, that are available and that we are taking advantage of through our curriculum department. I shared some swag bag with Mrs. Hendrickson and some of the information that most of it she already knew. But just a wonderful program. And just as a related story, there's an excellent exhibit called Seven in Livernois by artist Tiff Massey, who really talks about adornment and growing up in the Seven in Livernois area. And so I'd encourage you to go to the DIA, check out Tiff Massey's display, as well as look at the educational programs. Free for your kids, free for you to go as well. And then finally, I don't know how many wake-ups there are till the end of the school year. I'm sure your kids do. But we're committed to finishing strong, and we're excited about our culminating last couple of weeks. We have several concerts as well as final musicals and plays in that. And then we have 5 excellent graduations coming up. So we start with our adult English language learners. These are adults in our community who are completing their graduation over at Farmington Central. They're housed at the Farmington Central building. Of course, we have our Visions Unlimited graduation, our Farmington and North Farmington graduations, and our wonderful Farmington Central graduation. So 'tis the season. We're very excited about that. So without further ado, the important introduction of the night, I want to invite up our Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development, Mr. Brad Paddock, for a very special introduction.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Delgado and the Board of Education. I have had the great fortune to once again facilitate and finalize another very important building level administrative hire, and that recommendation comes later this evening to you in the form of an action item to be voted on. It is a pleasure to stand in front of you this evening with the opportunity to tell you about the interview journey we have taken in an effort to find a successor leader for the Hillside Elementary elementary principal, as Mr. Kaufman has announced his retirement at the end of this school year. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Tori Moss to please come forward and join alongside me as I say a few words of introduction. On April 24th, we began reviewing cover letters and resumes of over 67 applicants for the position of principal at Hillside Elementary School. This job posting attracted internal candidates as well as current building leaders from throughout Michigan, Illinois, and as far west as Arizona, who were looking to come join our FPS staff community. After the initial paper screening, we conducted in-person interviews and virtual interviews with 7 candidates in front of our central office cabinet team. The second round, known as the stakeholder round, that group interview included 21 participants composed of Hillside Elementary School staff, parents, students, and additional central office team members. The third round was conducted by an external education-based talent agency focused on identifying key interpersonal strengths specific to leadership skills and attributes. The final step of the interview journey for Tori was a final interview between me, Dr. Delgado, and Dr. Coffin as we made our final decision to move forward with Ms. Moss. Since July 2022 in Farmington, Tori has served as the assistant principal at East Middle School. Prior to that, she was an assistant principal, dean for the University Middle and High School Academies, and AP capstone teacher, test coordinator, and department chair for the University High School Academy, where she served since 2014. She began her career as an English teacher at Southfield Lathrop High School. Tori earned her Bachelor of Arts in English and her Master of Arts in Education from the University of Michigan. Maybe that's where the yellow's coming from tonight. In the short time I've gotten to know Tori through our principal visioning conversations, she has demonstrated remarkable leadership qualities, and I have witnessed her fostering collaborative relationships among her colleagues and the staff at East Middle School, along with Mr. LaCroix. She possesses a deep understanding of the diverse needs of our Hillside student population and is committed to promoting inclusivity and equity in all aspects of her work. Tori, on behalf of Dr. Delgado and the Cabinet Plus leadership team, I want to thank you in advance for believing in Farmington Public Schools as your admin home for a long time to come, specifically to the dedicated team that you will lead at Hillside. You and Ms. Amos will make a great team as you lead the largest elementary in our school. To the board, she and I look forward to your vote later this evening. Please feel free to join me in congratulating Ms. Tori Moss for being named the new Hillside Elementary principal and for her continued forward leadership right here in Farmington Public Schools. Congrats, Tori.
Goodness. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Delgado, Board of Education. I'm ecstatic. Thank you, Hillside. I was not expecting that. That is so kind. I'm super excited for the new school year to lead the Hillside community, to work with the students, to get to know the families. I have a lot of exciting things planned. I'm very happy to be a Husky. Thank you to family, friends, and colleagues for coming. And again, what an amazing, that just shows you what this school is about and what this district is about. And I'm so happy to call this my home and to live within the boundaries of the Farmington Public Schools. So this is home. Hillside, I'm coming, I'm excited. Thank you so much also to Drew for an amazing run at East. We're a great team, and now I'm trading one LaCroix for the other. But I'm super, and his kids, they're all there. So I'm excited. They're in good hands. They're in good hands. But thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it, and I will make you proud. Thank you.
That's my introduction this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
I think Dr. Delgado deserves an honor of applause because that's a 2 for 2. We are fortunate to have the executive assistant who has been truly amazing in her work. And now we have someone that not only lives in the community, that loves our students. When the news came out that Tori was going to be the principal at Hillside, I was like, wait a minute, you got this wrong. She's not leaving East. Well, I had East teachers call me crying because they said they really love you and the work that you do and how you engage with the students and with the families. So you will be missed. I congratulate you for not only the hard work that you have done in such a small frame of time here, but I want to say that is a building that is going to need you, and you have a lot of love there. And to see that those students, well, you got a little one back there, a little husky, and the families, they're ready for you. And congratulations. And I think that after going through the American Idol interviews process, because it's grueling, he gives you 4 interviews. So that means that you were on the top of the list. So congratulations. And I really appreciate you staying and doing the work that you're doing in Farmington Public Schools. So you are one of Farmington's finest. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rich.
I think Ms. Smith got it 100% correct on everything that she said. I've heard a lot of the same things from teachers, not only at East, but also at Hillside, who are just so excited for you to be joining them. And so this is just a thank you for all the work that you have done at East, a congratulations on the new role, and I am so excited to see what you bring to this school. You already see that you have your Hillside family ready to welcome you with a warm embrace, and so this is going to be the start of something fantastic over there. So thank you so much for taking this role, and congratulations.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of just being repetitive, I just want to also offer congratulations. I'm thrilled. I hear really great things. I know the process is pretty grueling, I'm thrilled that out of 67 applicants that you rose to the top, and I'm also really, really happy to see this show of welcome that really, really warms my heart, and I'm just have this beautiful feeling that you are in the right place for us at this time. So thank you. Congratulations to you and your family.
Wonderful. Congratulations again, and thank you again, family members from Hillside, for this warm welcome. This is Farmington. This is community. This is how we roll. And we're so excited about the adventure that awaits all of you. Let's give her a round of applause.
Those are the end of our district updates. Thank you.
All right. Wonderful. Next, we're moving into reports from board committees. First up, we have communications and community engagement. Yes.
Thank you. So last Tuesday, we had the third and final of our community dialogues for this school year. This one was focused on the future of high school in the district. And so we had a good conversation at our tables. We had not only community members, but teachers, students, and just a wide array of people coming to kind of discuss what does the future of high school look like? What does that include for curriculum, for scheduling, for this, that, and the other thing? So we are very excited to take all of that back. We had high school principals there. We also had, our curriculum team there as well, kind of looking at how are we innovating in Farmington and what are our next steps. So we're taking that all back. That gets brought back to Dr. Delgado and his team to then work through and provide us with what are we going to be doing next. So again, thank you so much for all of those people who either this was your first dialogue or your third for the year. So it was great seeing all that support. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next, we have the Policy and Board Governance Committee.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
The Policy and Board Governance Committee, we met on the 16th. Myself, Member Weems, and Fox were there. Also present at our committee meeting was Dr. Delgado, Brad Paddock, and Greg Smith, as well as Ray Mayberry and Kim Buckley as well. Just for the purposes of clarification, the original agenda was adjusted for the purposes of the dialogue that took place at the committee meeting at that time. We reversed the order, but now in terms of this report out, I'm going to read it in the order that the agenda was originally presented. I'm going to read, for the most part, the minutes as given, so forgive me for referring to myself in the third person. That feels a little awkward, but probably an easier way to read and deliver this. So the first item on the agenda was the continued work in the development of a board equity or DEI policy. Chair Walker provided a review of his work to date. Multiple district policies in addition to FPS have been reviewed, along with administrator and teacher contacts. I met with the heads of both unions, Chris Bianchi and Joe Green, for the purposes of having some conversation around those groups' thoughts around policy in general as well. And I'll be meeting with, or actually I met with Brad Paddock this past Friday as well. We had a great conversation, him and Jeff Danziger, around how policy is impacted through an HR lens as well. That brought me to also back to the meeting. Mr. Smith, Greg Smith, shared information regarding the various staff interactions that he has experienced and future DEI training, specifically around hate speech. He will be presenting at the June 8th board retreat to provide DEI training to the board members, and will be sharing his end of the year DEI update at the June 18th board meeting as well. I shared that the overall PD model needs to be addressed. This was not my opinion. This was information that was given to me from the conversations that I had received, and that staff is interested in more training that deals with the how to handle situations like the recent incidents we've had here in our community and in our school. Dr. Delgado clarified that the district's policies are robust and provide latitude for addressing violations, including discipline of tenured teachers. Semantics, context, characterization of recent and future incidents are important. Member Weems expressed that the board needs to be on the same page when reviewing incidents and examining intent. Dr. Delgado is open to ongoing meetings with union heads around policy development and will support committee members meeting with additional staff and administrators, perhaps including a listening circle. I'll provide more information about that in a moment. Lastly, Chair Walker and myself discussed next steps and recommendations. I would like to engage in a community dialogue regarding our current policy in this particular area. I'm going to work offline to see if that can happen before the end of the school year. Proposed opening up the Policy Board Governance Committee to additional members, union representatives, and the community as well in order to increase transparency, trust, and inclusivity. I want it to be known that that consideration has been under review for me since February of this year. It just seemed that there was an awful lot on the table that needed to be addressed before this thought would even be good for consideration at this point. If something like that were to take place, it is completely understood that there are a number of different parameters that would have to be addressed so that it would be an effective addition to the work that we do and not something cumbersome. Committee members expressed their thoughts on this proposal. Dr. Delgado suggested the creation of an ad hoc committee separate from the Policy Board Governance Committee to address equity, DEI, and in the district if it is found that the current policy is sufficient. So just for the purposes of clarification for the board and for those who might be listening as well, the entire intent of this work is centered around being as inclusive of all parties impacted by policy as much as makes sense. It does not make sense to me as the chair to create a policy that impacts everybody, and I haven't heard from everybody in some way, shape, or form. You can't get buy-in if people don't have an opportunity to opt in, and I want to give them that opportunity as much as humanly possible. I also want to state very respectfully that it has been said to me on numerous occasions so far since February that language needs to come right now. Policy needs to happen right now. And I respect the urgency, I respect the intent, and the desire. My only retort to that is that I could give you draft language tomorrow, but if we haven't done due diligence in how that language impacts the people whom it's designed to impact, then we find ourselves right back in the situation we're in right now. So my whole point in doing this work in this particular manner is to A, be inclusive, and B, be thorough, so that whatever is written outlives this entire board and is something that can be implemented from now on. That is my goal. So it is slow. I will recognize that. I will acknowledge that. But it is with the intent of being thorough and being fair and respectful to all parties. So that's item number one. Item number two was a review of policies and administrative regulations that speak to employee and student discipline. That information was rolled into item number one in terms of what we discussed. And I want to also compliment everybody on the committee who was there, especially on this last Thursday. Dr. Delgado was attending the meeting via car. He was coming back from his daughter's graduation. Congratulations again to you and to family. Member Weems was in her car on the phone making the transition. And Mabel and I, we were just at home, enjoying ourselves along the way. But the commitment to the work and wanting to see the work through just made me feel very good about what is being done and the steps that are being taken. I do not expect that this will be easy. I do not expect that we will all agree, but I know we will move forward in this in the right kind of manner for the benefit of the children, the teachers, the staff, and everybody who's impacted by the importance of good policy. Speaking of which, our third item on our agenda was around cell phone policy. So there was some pre-work that was being offered for us to begin to do as we begin to address this particular issue. There have been multiple requests to review the district's current cell phone policy, as cell phones have been at the center of most of the recent events. The topic has also been brought forward by community members, most recently at the community dialogue of reimagining high schools. I presented a synopsis of the current board policy 2005 and applicable sections of the Positive Culture Handbooklet for review as we were walking through this and starting to get our mind around what our policies are and how they're being, how they're coming to at times, how they're being applied right here, right now in our current situations, I should say. There is consistency with the handling of cell phones at elementary schools. No cell phones are permitted there. This is information Dr. Delgado shared with us for the point of clarification. So there is consistency with regards to our cell phones at the elementary school level. No cell phones are permitted to be used at all at the elementary school level. Please correct me if I get any of this incorrect. Middle school level, cell phones must remain in backpacks or lockers. However, at the high school, cell phones are most problematic there, where allowable usage in the classroom is determined by individual teachers. Dr. Delgado stated that our current policies, while are robust and actions have been taken whenever board policy has been violated, it would be helpful for the board to put more teeth to this policy. And so again, we want to have some conversation around that. He will follow up with the high school principals to determine what language would help and how to best implement any changes. Again, what good is it to create policy if we don't have the means to implement it fairly? It becomes just work done and letters on a piece of paper. The information will be brought to future policy board governance committee meetings. I did express an interest in surveying parents and staff to offer a voice in the process. Inclusivity, again, is one of my priorities in this particular work. It was pointed out and reminded to me that this topic was discussed at our previous community dialogues. I do remember that one. That was a really robust conversation around cell phone policy with the community, which was great, and with members of our student roundtable, so we at least have that student voice already there and we can capture that qualitative data. So with a survey going out we've got parents from, I believe it was about a year ago when we had that particular conversation, and get some information from parents today. I think that is a good effort to reach out to our community to get a feel for their thoughts around this before we sit down and say, okay, this is what we want to do or how we want to approach all of this. It is sincerely hoped that any changes to the policy can be launched at the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. And then finally, there are Title IX policy updates that was provided by Miller Johnson. New regulations to Title IX will go into effect August 1st, 2024. The new policies must be in place by that date. Updates are expected to be available from the district service provider, Miller Johnson, by early June. Member Weems investigated that our current board policy covering discussion and approval of policy updates by the board. The board has the right to waive the first reading when it is necessary to do so. So our recommendation from a consensus is that when we do receive the updates, that the updated information will be emailed to all of the board members for that to be, quote unquote, the first review, so that we can vote on those updates being put into play no later than our June 18th Board of Education regular meeting, so that we can then have those policies in place and be compliant by the date. So, but all of this is on the assumption that Miller Johnson will get us the updates in sufficient enough time for that to happen. That is the only item out of our control. And future agenda items will be continued work on the board equity DEI policy. I want to add, as it relates to that, future plans that have been discussed and shared, and I want to also update the board with the continued work. I will be meeting with Ms. Henry, who is over restorative practices over at North Farmington, this Thursday to discuss what is a listening circle, how does that work as a tool, because I have spoken with the union reps, again, of our teachers and our administrators, and my ask is if they are comfortable with it, the next level of leadership in the unions, if they are comfortable with it, I would like to be able to sit down and hear from them about policy, about these policies, how it impacts them, what they're feeling, how they're feeling it, and so forth. But I want to make sure it's done in a way that they feel comfortable, because I know I'm a board member, and with that comes the ability for me to do things that I can't really do, but perception is reality. And so I want them to be very, very comfortable, again, if they decide they want to do it. If they choose not to, no problem. It has been offered. There is no retaliation, no bad thoughts, no bad feelings. I just want them to feel as inclusive in this process as humanly possible. I'm also going to be, as I mentioned, working to get the community dialogue about policy completed before the end of the year, if that is entirely possible. And I will be, as we approach the end of this process, I will be looking at the layout of our language, looking at the language and the layout of our language in our books, because we may have very good policy, but it may be laid out in such a way that maybe it isn't as clear to someone who's looking for an understanding of what we do, how we do it, and what happens as it could be. So these are all the things that are in play and planned for the work around this. I want to again thank my committee for their support, their honesty. When they don't agree, they tell me that, and I appreciate and I respect that tremendously. And I want to emphasize for my board, for my community as a whole, that this work is not being done to be punitive in any way, shape, or form. This work is to be done to create the best environment for both staff and student alike. I also will have some recommendations I'd like to discuss with Dr. Delgado around the student code of conduct, because that is a part of policy and must be addressed so that we are doing a fair look across the board as well. But that is the work, and to bring it more concisely to light, Dr. Martin Luther King said some time ago that laws are not created to change people's hearts. They're there to control the heartless. And that is the philosophy that I am using to approach this work. I am not here, this committee's not here, this work is not being done to change someone's heart. We can't do that. But for the one individual, and I'm stressing a low number because that is not the preponderance of our teaching community, our student body. We have great people. And unfortunately, it only takes a few bad apples to spoil the bunch. But for that one person who is heartless, who somehow or another snuck through the cracks and got in here, I want us to have policy that can get that joker out of here quick, fast, and in a hurry, and without it coming back to us any way, shape, or form. So while I was said very informally, that is the intent behind that. And so hopefully I haven't done something or said something inappropriate. I'm looking at Zach's face all the way. But that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, and thank you to your committee just a moment, for the thoroughness of your investigation of our policies and the information that you are collecting.
Sorry.
It's okay. The information that you are collecting with other members of our district, with the unions, with Mr. Paddock, Dr. Delgado, you really are doing your due diligence as a committee, and we appreciate the inclusivity and thoroughness emphasis, and recognize that to do an inclusive and thorough job does require this level of time investment. And so while it might appear to some others that it's taking time, it requires this kind of time commitment in order for us to get it right. So thank you to you and your committee.
Thank you.
Ms. Weems?
As a member of the committee, I also wanted to thank Mr. Walker for his work. He's been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work in between policy committee meetings, meeting with various stakeholders, doing research, and keeping Mrs. Fox and I very informed. And I appreciate the thoroughness and the thoughtfulness around this approach, and I can really see the passion. I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do in policy, and I thank you for your leadership there.
Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Fox as well. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
I also want to echo, thank you for the leadership as a policy chair. policy for most people just see it as black and white, but you extended it out to the union presidents, which I really appreciated, due to the fact that these are very sensitive issues that are impacting not only our principals, but our teachers as well. As you stated, it just takes one, when you buy that bunch of bananas, and then that next thing you know, one is really, really bad, and then next, before you know it, the rest of them. And we don't want that to continue. And having those conversations is important to talk to with your unions, due to just making something and not having them have an input. I also appreciate that Dr. Delgado is considering, which he had been doing prior to, an ad hoc committee, more so to work with not just the policy committee, but with everyone included. Now, I don't know what that ad hoc committee would look like. Would it be, your union reps and board members, or would you have community members involved in it? I don't know, but I think that that is one of the best ideas that could be had. I love that you are talking to the restorative practice people. I think that the three of you, working with the superintendent on this, did some really, really good work. It shows that you are listening to the people, and the three of you with him are listening to what the community is discussing and what have been asking for. And that's all they want, is to see some action. I agree with the phone policy. You're not gonna like everybody ain't gonna like what you got to say, but after watching the cohort over at Farmington the other day, students were not using their phones. So I appreciate you doing that. And I also, because I took notes, I also appreciate the fact that you discussed revisiting that student code of conduct. That is very important. So thank you to the three of you, and thank you all for the hard work that you all put into, well, actually, I'm sorry, Dr. Delgado, the four of you, for the work that you all have put in on doing this. Thank you.
If I may add, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Delgado. I just wanted to say that there are a number of models or examples of something like that ad hoc committee that are out there that I've seen so far, and so we have an opportunity to sit down and take a look at what that could possibly be as a solution. Rest assured that it will, again, have inclusivity as one of the priorities, so that we can have A, transparency, B, communication, so that we shape things in a way that can best benefit our community, with the understanding, obviously, that our administration and teachers are the subject matter experts, and so we lean into that with the commentary, thoughts, and beliefs and values of our community together. I'm sorry, please.
That's fine. Just two quick things. So I wanted to thank Mr. Paddock and his team from our Human Resources Department for providing over 100 pages of review of policy, regulations, procedures that really helped Mr. Walker and the team in their incredible research of starting to review our existing policies. So thank you to Mr. Paddock and his team. And then congratulations to Mr. Smith. You all recall that as part of these efforts, one of his goals as part of the diversity strategic plan this year was to create a parent-based IDEA team. And so some of you may have attended that meeting. His kickoff meeting was last week, I believe. And so that is a long time coming. Mr. Smith has been working diligently on it. It aligns with these efforts of giving voice to our community and talking with our community and partnering with our community on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So really proud of Greg for his work, and congratulate him as well. So good work to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the FPS large area AV recommendation.
And Dr. Coffin is back.
Hi, everyone. So we have a couple members from Plant Moran here with us, Amy Cecina and Barry Gilbert, and they are going to provide some information as part of this discussion item tonight for the large area audio-visual requests for our secondary buildings.
Hello. Wanted to just give you a quick overview of the process, what we're looking to do, and what we have done to get where we are. So back when we started the bond planning, we noted that there were some needs in the large area spaces, so the auditoriums at the 2 high schools and the cafeteria auditoriums in the 4 middle schools. And so we had some budget set aside. We began probably about a year ago to start looking at some of these spaces. We met with the teachers, we met with your newly hired auditorium manager. We met with the TV10 teacher. We met with principals, the key teachers in these areas to all really understand their needs of these spaces, understand how they're used, what shortfalls there might be, what things could improve the use of these spaces. And with the goal of really improving these for a couple of reasons. So the goal is to provide a comprehensive package so that students at the middle school will learn a little more of the AV and will be able to move to the high school with a similar system. So it'll kind of be very streamlined. And also to allow TV10 to record even more and provide even more valuable input for streaming these shows or streaming the events and just providing all around community service for that. There's a potential that we could lease some of the high school spaces, which I believe some of it is already being done. And so we just want to make these kind of showcase spaces. And part of the process was to figure out these needs. So once we determined the needs, we went to bid. We did a pre-bid meeting with some vendors on site. They viewed the different spaces, and we got 2 bids back. So right now, this is just a discussion item. At the next board meeting, we'll bring it to you for an action item. But the lower bid vendor is one that we have worked with in the past, the district has worked with in the past, and has had good experience with. I just want to highlight, too, what the schools will be getting as part of this. So the schools will be getting, the middle schools and the high schools will all be getting new wireless mics. The high school is getting new projectors for the auditorium spaces. They're getting new intercoms. The middle schools are getting new mobile carts for sound and lighting. And they're getting, the high school is getting some cabling to allow for the classroom spaces to be more tightly integrated into the auditoriums. So it's a lot of good work will be occurring. We're hopeful that the work will be able to occur in the high schools over the summer, kind of pending equipment timelines, and then it'll be after hours in the middle school in the fall.
Yes.
A couple things. First, I can vouch firsthand for the need for some sound equipment at the high school level. I've been to several events that are wonderful, but often we do have some sound challenges, so I support that fully. I am interested in understanding what we've done in the past related to upgrades in the auditorium. I seem to recall that we had something done a few years ago. I may be wrong, but I'm interested in understanding what's different. And it would also be helpful to get, I so appreciate you running down the examples of what each of the high schools and middle schools will be getting. But if there were a way to get more detail, because the cost here is pretty significant, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
If possible.
We can provide that.
Perfect.
And with regards to, I can give you kind of a high-level overview. Plant Moran wasn't very involved in the auditorium aspect previously, but I know that there were several upgrades. As you know, with technology, despite the fact that they were upgraded, 7 to 8 years ago, a lot of those components need to be upgraded again, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. So we're kind of right in that time frame. Some of it is to provide additional functionality and to streamline it. Previously, the schools were upgraded as part of each individual package, and so East might have been done at one time, Warner might have been done at another, and it may have been different vendors, just depending on, if you remember, the construction was somewhat staggered. And so the way that the bidding system works, different vendors may have ended up in so slightly different components maybe. The goal of this is also to bring everything together. We're still using many of the existing components, everything that is still capable of being used. This is just upgrading them and tying them more closely together.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yeah, I had some questions on this. I just need some help understanding. I mean, in the board package, you gave us the letter, and then you gave us the two bids, and there were a whole bunch of figures in red in parentheses. What are those?
So I'm going to pull my letter out here so that I can look at exactly what you're talking about. So these are all, we get the base bid, and we probably showed you more detail than you care to know, but in being fully transparent, the items in red are things that were subtracted from the bid. Either the vendor didn't fully understand what we needed, or they included additional components that we may have chosen not to proceed with. They did come in slightly over budget, so we were looking for areas where we could have some cost savings to bring it within budget, which we were able to do. And so those represent some of those components. So functionality-wise, we're not losing anything. I'd say the first probably 4 or 5 lines are really just things that the vendor didn't necessarily understand. And some of the other lines are some cost savings or just things that we decided to change through the bid process.
Okay. So is this something, because usually our bid packs go through Plant Moran, is this something that's being done in district with the bid packs, or is it going through the project manager?
No, so I'm from Plant Moran.
Oh, okay.
And
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Didn't get that memo.
Yep, so we've been working with,
Okay.
so we've been working with the district, with Oakland Schools IT, and with the auditorium management team, so Nathan Cromwell and Sean McGuckin. So it's kind of a comprehensive package. We developed the RFP, but we had significant feedback from those folks as well as from the buildings themselves.
And is this part of the bond money that
Yes.
we're using? So it's coming out of the
Yep,
bond?
it is coming out of the bond.
Okay.
And it was in the original budget and the original plan in the bond, when the bond passed in 2020.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, and it's just, it's interesting because, you know, technology is so expensive, but it has a life. And so it's fortunate, I guess, that we have so thank the community for the bonds to support updating these things. And also, I appreciate the fact that not only are you updating the high schools, but also the middle schools, including STEAM in that, because those are the kids that are feeding into the high school. So that's real important too. So thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we move on to public comment. During the public comment portion of our board meeting, members of the community are welcome to address the board. Each community member will have up to 3 minutes to speak. A timer on the screen will display the 3-minute countdown for each speaker during public comment. Thank you for honoring this guideline. We wish to remind our community that this is a meeting of the board held in public to provide transparency, but this is not a public meeting. As a result, we will listen respectfully to your comments, but we will not respond or engage in dialogue in this particular venue. However, please be assured that we are listening closely to every comment and that a member of the Board of Education and/or our Superintendent, Dr. Delgado, would be happy to speak with you after tonight's meeting to set up a time to engage in dialogue together and further address your concerns. David Villar.
All right. Hello, everyone. So considering that we have the new hire, the new principal at Hillside, right? And you guys do have the Parent Idea Committee meeting, and I missed it. I understand the game is now afoot. That being the case, I'm only going to go back to the parent surveys, which I'm going to try to jump off of what you were speaking about. So the process that we as parents, we come across this process of dealing with the board and understanding the bureaucracy and online, it's not easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to personally reset myself and go through all of the websites for the Farmington Hills School District to understand what as a parent I can do to be contributive, right? And what other parents can do. With that, what I'm hoping, and I would imagine other parents would hope for this too, is that at the Parent Idea Committee meetings that other parents can attend, that we can contribute our ideas in such a way as to focus on the areas where the students need the most uplift, okay? DEI being one of them, and I'm going to give a personal experience that needs to be addressed. My son was called the N-word during an innocent game of chess after school. And I wasn't initially going to bring this up because I felt that my experience shouldn't be, the point. But it could have been any parent. It could have been any child. And I've been advocating for us to be more, thorough, but it looks like we're getting there as far as how we're going to handle these situations. It was another student, so, punishing the student isn't the point. The student learned that behavior from probably a parent or elsewhere, which goes to jokers that need to be, rooted out. Not the parent per se, but just the environment. So, but I want to bring to light the mental health aspect of this. There is a lot of challenges for a lot of parents. We're busy, we have lives, we have jobs. To just live in this district, it can take a lot of our finances. And we want to give our children as much of our time and effort as we can, but they're with the teachers for 6 to 7 hours, and sometimes even more for extracurriculars. So we do need a coordinated support with the district to the best of your ability, and we need to know how to do that more efficiently and not go into dead ends all the time because we don't know the right process. Hopefully what I said made sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Henrietta Forche?
Hello. I gave you all the book except Mabel, I have yours ready. So this is about a book called The Adversity of Diversity, and it's by Carol Swain, this quote, and others. So it said, when the U.S. Supreme Court announced its landmark 6-3 decision to take race out of the equation for college and university admissions, it did more than just bring affirmative action in higher education to a screeching halt. It also fired a warning shot across the bow of businesses and governmental agencies across America. The days for workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI programs, that violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment have an expiration date. In The Adversity of Diversity, award-winning political scientist Carol Swain and collaborator Mike Towie offer an insightful look at DEI's inception and evolution into a billion-dollar industry. Swain and Towie explain why DEI's days are numbered and how we as people can move beyond divisiveness toward the unity promised by our nation's motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. From Alan Dershowitz's foreword on the heels of the Supreme Court decision declaring race-based affirmative action in higher education unconstitutional, Swain and Towie's The Adversity of Diversity puts forth a compelling case for questioning the entire diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI industry that has departed from any integrationist goals. It has become an aggressive force that takes organizations away from their core missions and often transforms them into divisive and disruptive institutions that openly violate the rights of members of disfavored groups. Swain's recommended solution of real unity training solutions entails a return to core American principles that embrace non-discrimination and equal opportunity, a meritocratic system that recognizes individual rather than group rights, I believe that the demise of race-based affirmative action in college admissions should be accompanied by the elimination of most other non-meritocratic criteria such as legacy status, athletics, geography, and other non-academic preferences. We should truly level the playing field by eliminating practices that create division while taking us further from Dr. Martin Luther King's vision and the constitutional protections we should welcome. In this book, Swain shares her own affirmative action journey and the factors that enabled her to achieve the American dream. She and her co-author have not given up on the nation's motto of E pluribus unum, out of many one. Her vision for unity rather than what has become divisive training is one we can and should explore. One need not agree with all their observations and proposals to benefit from their wisdom. Thank you. And I look forward to, I put my name and my phone number in there, so I appreciate your insights in that back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Levelway?
Good evening. I guess, I don't guess. My talk today is, you've already got it. It was in your packet. It says, "This is how Farmington defines equity, question mark." And I'm glad to hear that Dr. Delgado is where the buck stops. And Dr. Delgado was hired to make diversity, equity, and inclusion work. Now somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 students read below grade level here in Farmington. This years-long condition particularly affects two groups of students. Students from low-income families not only underachieve, but also reduce average district reading scores. As Dr. Delgado has illustrated at least a couple of times, and my question is, are these students destined to repeat the cycle of poverty they were born into? Or can Farmington teach these kids to read at grade levels? African American students also suffer from serious reading gaps, which persist from elementary grades to middle school and high school. Maybe they can read their diplomas when they graduate, but their SAT reading scores can handicap their future prospects. This is not equity. Dr. Delgado, what are you doing to fix reading gaps in all grades? Specifically, when? How many more classes have to graduate before you fix reading? I'm particularly concerned on this poverty. We're not the only ones who suffer from teaching students in the low-income areas. And we don't have a solution here in the district. I'm not sure who has it, but somebody dang well better get it, because that affects these kids' future, and you ought to be part of the solution.
Thank you, Mr. Levelway. Next, we have Mr. Mark Forche.
Hello, I'm here tonight to talk to the parents who are looking in up there. My wife and I went to a store. We asked the cashier, "Where do you go to school?" And she said, "Farmington High School." And my wife said, "Well, how do you like it?" And she said, "I was so glad to graduate." She felt like she was being indoctrinated in a lot of ways for years. So what goes on here? She's not the only one. She knew a lot of kids in her class, and there are a lot of other kids who felt that way. But that never comes up. At board meetings, everything is happy. All the people who present only present positive things. There's smiles. The first 10 minutes I was here, I heard about, it was amazing, amazing, great things, amazing, 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 above and beyond, exciting, exciting, amazing. This was 10 minutes. Everything is great. In my 3 years of coming here, and sometimes I wonder why, and you probably wonder why I come here, I've never, that I recall, ever seen the board initiate serious discussion about serious problems in the school. Does that mean that in the last 3 years there have been no serious problems in the school? I've heard people at this podium with their 3 minutes bring up serious discussions, but they aren't initiated by the board. It's a lot of smiling, superficial talk, lovely illusion as far as I can see. And as Mr. Lubaway said, we have these reading and math scores, and especially young black students, grade school and high school, are even lower than white, and that's a tragedy. That's not something to be smiling about there. And it's not just recently, this has been going on. So that has to be dealt with. Now, also, there are thousands of parents in this district, and recently I heard that 200 people or so came here for 6 hours because they were upset about a couple of incidents. If that many people can come here, I'm pleading with parents to come here twice a month. First Tuesday, second Thursday, 32789, 10 Mile, the Maxfield Center. We should have at least 20 parents, the kind of parents who dig in, who don't just accept, oh, everything's fine, I've heard everything is fine. We need parents digging in. What's going on in the curriculum? What's going on with genderism? There's talk of, nationwide experts have been talking about, it's not blatant Marxism, but the philosophy is there filtered through the years through Herbert Marcuse and others. And, oh, no, we're not teaching that. But one thing that happens is there are certain activist teachers who teach things even if the administration doesn't tell them. So there are a lot of things going on here that you, the parents, need to know, and we need people here to dig in and examine and not just accept the surface. Thank you.
Thank you. I encourage you, Mr. Forche, to watch our special meeting that we had held on February 14th, where the board spent at least 4 hours responding to public comment that we'd had up until about the wee hours of the night at the prior meeting, where we spent 2 hours discussing concerns of the African American community, an hour discussing the concerns of the Palestinian and Jewish community, and then another hour discussing some other issues that were raised by community members at the prior meeting. So you will hear us discussing in detail some of the concerns, many of the serious concerns that were raised. So I encourage you to go to our website and view that meeting.
Okay, just briefly.
No, I'm sorry. I can talk with you after the meeting. Okay. Next, we have Dr. T.R. Carr.
Members of the board, Dr. Delgado, my name is T.R. Carr. I'm a resident and a grandparent of children attending the Farmington Public Schools. I just want to raise an issue, and I do want to thank Mr. Walker for bringing it up in his report. I think I talked with Dr. Blau about that about a year ago, and that deals with inclusion on the various committees, the 3 committees that the Board of Education has. You have a committee on finance, you have a committee on policy, a committee on communications. Those committees are closed to those of us in the public, and yet significant discussions occur there. So this district is committed to the concept of inclusion. And so I again ask the board to include members of the public to be able to hear, to be able to listen to, and to understand exactly what is being discussed. Trust, I guess, runs 2 ways. You ask us to trust you for the decisions that you make, and that's what we try and do. I ask the board to trust the public to be able to hear and understand the nuances of the decisions that you are making. At the last community dialogue we had, there were 2 young men at my table, hackbots, bright, articulate, and they were discussing what they perceived to be a lack of resources for the Hackbot program. One of the things that I found disturbing is I did not have access to all of that information, how the budget allocations are made. Those are made in the Finance Committee. Dr. Delgado's team reports, the subcommittee hears and reports it out. But it would be nice, and I think it'd be essential for those of us in the business community, those of us who are parents, those of us who are grandparents, to be able to hear, to understand, and to appreciate the various forces, the various rationale that's made in your decision-making process. If I heard Mr. Walker correctly, you're looking at expanding a mechanism for us to be able just to sit in. I'm not currently asking for a mechanism to be able to talk unless a subcommittee has a public comment, but to be able to hear and understand and receive the information that you receive. You're discussing important issues like Title IX. These are critical issues for us. I'd like to be able to know exactly what the board is saying and how the board perceives those changes. Again, inclusion is a watchword on what this board stands for, and I ask you to include us so that we can hear, we can understand, and we can appreciate the pressures and the issues that you face. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Is there any further public comment? Any further public comment? Seeing no further public comment is closed. Thank you. Moving on to our action items. First up, the Oakland Schools Budget Resolution. Yes, Mr. Rich.
Before I make this motion, just wanting to flag that yes, my mother does currently sit on the Oakland Schools Board of Education, but no, this is not a conflict of interest.
Thank you.
So, with that said, I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution in support of the Oakland Schools General Fund operating budget for the 2024-25 school year and waive the reading of the resolution.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Rich, supported by Ms. Weems. Any discussion?
It was Ms. Smith.
What did I say? Ms. Weems, I'm sorry. My apologies, Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Yes.
Yes, I had some questions regarding this budget earlier. I've had those questions satisfied, primarily related to the expenses exceeding the revenues, and that's largely due to capital items.
Yes.
I think Mrs. Heinrich may have had a question as well, and I believe she had her question satisfied too. So I have no further questions or issues or concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Is this a roll call vote?
It is.
Okay. Mr. Rich?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Moving on to the facilities roof project. Yes, Mr. Walker.
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid award for the facilities roof project as outlined in the April 24th, 2024 memo from Director John Barth to Newton Crane Roofing Company Incorporated in the amount of $226,800, including construction contingency, funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker, seconded by Ms. Weems around the facilities roof project. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead with a roll call vote.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to the new central office furniture purchase. Ms. Weems?
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation to move forward with the furniture purchase for the new central office from ODP in an amount not to exceed $375,000, including a 15% contingency. Funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Ms. Smith, for the new central office furniture purchase. Any discussion? Yes.
I can't recall whether it was this item or item B that was originally coming from the general fund, but I'm pleased to see that it is now coming from the Capital Projects Fund, and so I fully support that. Thank you.
Yes. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And finally, we have two more. Oakland Schools Board of Education election, designate, and resolution. Ms. Heinrich?
This item was presented at the April 23rd and May 7th Board of Education regular meetings. we have to adopt a resolution to designate a representative and alternate and to vote on behalf of the district and to select the candidates to support. There are currently 4 candidates: Carol Finkelstein, Mark Katz, W. Semino Scott, and Charlie Gandy Thompson. There was a candidates forum that all the board members received access to. We received emails through the candidates participated in that. We received emails and information from through the candidates also. So I move that the Board of Education by resolution designate Claudia Heinrich as its designated representative and Terry Weems as its alternate representative to serve on the 2024 electoral body responsible for electing members to the Oakland Schools Intermediate School District Board of Education. Furthermore, the board is recommending candidates Carol Finkelstein. The board will support candidates Carol Finkelstein and candidate Mark Katz for the 2 open positions on the Oakland Schools Intermediate School District Board of Education, each for a term of 6 years ending June 30th, 2030, and directs the designated representatives to vote for both candidates at least on the first ballot taken at the June 3rd, 2024 election. Discussion.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Heinrich for the designate and backup? Alternate, thank you. As well as the resolution to elect both Carol Finkelstein and Mark Katz, supported by Ms. Weems. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Smith.
I support my board members that were put in place, Ms. Heinrich and Ms. Weems. I cannot support Carol Finkelstein due to the fact that our district, Oakland schools, and Oakland community, we are a very diverse community, and we cover several districts. The hard work that Dr. Delgado and Mr. Smith has put in trying to work on DEI here and other districts such as Pontiac and others. Ms. Finkelstein, because I used to sit on the board of directors, Ms. Finkelstein is not a supporter of DEI, and we had a DEI committee, and she pulled DEI and put that separately off to making it a disconnect. If you're doing this at the Oakland School Board Directors table, then the work that these superintendents in these districts are putting in is not, it's not important. These superintendents have taken hits. We all saw what happened January 11th, and it's gone through Novi and other areas, and these boards have taken hits. So I cannot get behind and support someone that does not take the, and support what the superintendents. And we got a diverse board here. I mean, don't adjust your screens, but we got a very diverse board, and our superintendent is of Latino descent as myself. So I cannot support Carol Finkelstein. I can go and support Mr. Katz, but I cannot get behind Ms. Finkelstein, but I cannot support that.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
I agree to some extent as well. I had the opportunity to review all of the candidates for the Oakland County Schools, and I believe based on what I have heard with Dr. Samuel Scott would be an excellent board member for the Oakland County Schools.
Thank you, Ms. Fox and Ms. Smith, for your input. Other comments? Yes.
I've been the board representative for all my years on the board, and so I've gotten to know, I form my own opinions. I've never observed anything by Carol Finkelstein that would suggest that she wouldn't act in fairness, and she doesn't represent all the communities that she serves and is elected to serve. My analysis of the candidates is only 2 of the candidates have experience in board service. Extensive years of service. Carol Finkelstein has extensive years of service as West Bloomfield Board of Education, and she's been on the Oakland County School Board of Directors for an extensive number of years. Mark Katz has a long history of service also in both of those capacities. Neither of the other 2 candidates have any experience serving on any local boards of education. And my opinion is that the ISD is a higher level, and so I think that is important to support members that have experience in serving on their local school boards, because the ISD represents that. I wouldn't have a problem with selecting somebody as a 3rd choice candidate in case we had to do that, and go with the directives of our Board of Education. But for this purposes, I think that Carol Finkelstein and Mark Katz are the most experienced and most would serve the district.
Yes.
I have been on this board 7 years. I've served on that board of directors. I happen to know both of the candidates. I was sitting on the DEI committee while Carol was the president at the time. And those that sat on that committee have all been blackballed some sort of way or another, no pun intended. I respectfully agree to disagree when it comes down to experience. Our current mayor in Farmington Hills sits on that board on the Oakland schools, never served as a school board member, and has done a great job at Oakland schools. So, and how do you expect someone to get that experience if you don't give them a chance? I have worked with her, Ms. Finkelstein personally, and you cannot micromanage DEI. She may have been on the school board a number of years in West Bloomfield. She had been on that board for several years. But sometimes it's time for change, and it's time for people that fight for what Dr. Delgado, this board, Ferndale, Pontiac, and other districts are fighting for. Having a reputation of being on there in name recognition, that's not why I vote for people. I vote for them for what's right. And I, again, cannot, and who knows, even though the other 2 don't have the experience, who says that they can't bring something positive to the table? So I cannot, after what I know, I've been on the board 7 years, so I've had experience. What I know, I cannot, because of what I know about how she feels about DEI. Okay. And especially after what we went through in January 11th. So, former President Weems had a big role to play. And we took a hit, a major hit. People tore us up. And so now we have someone that's running for for the school, Oakland schools, that does not believe in what we're doing and considers that divisive. I cannot support that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smith. The motion has been, okay, go ahead, Mr. Rich.
Just two things. First, I would disagree with the concept of the ISD being a, I guess, higher level. I think it's a different jurisdiction where it comes to the services provided are very different than what a local district handles. And so it's not necessary to have local school board experience to be on the intermediate school district. I think it helps when dealing with stakeholders across the district and understanding what other districts are doing. But I don't think it's a necessary factor when determining who to have on the ISD. And then just a clarification of the difference between the Oakland County School Board Association, which had its DEI committees and things like that, which Ms. Finkelstein sat on and chaired, and the Oakland ISD, which is their school district.
Correct.
So it's just two separate bodies. So I just want that distinction just clarified.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Heinrich.
And I was on the Oakland County School Board Association, not the ISD DEI committee, the ad hoc committee, until it was disbanded. And we actually continued to meet after it was disbanded also. And so I want to amend the motion so that we vote on the candidates individually.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure
Why
the
don't we,
wording.
why don't we first vote on the designate and the alternate?
So to separate I move to separate the motion.
So as a point of order, can you withdraw your motion right now that you have currently on the table? And then make a new motion just for the representatives.
Okay, all right, so I withdraw my motion. Now I would move, and should we vote on these individually?
Well, let's.
Do you mind if I?
Okay, you want to move it?
I move that the Board of Education by resolution designate Claudia Heinrich as its designated representative and Terry Weems as its alternate representative to serve on the 2024 electoral body responsible for electing members of the Oakland Schools Intermediate School District Board of Education.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Rich, supported by Ms. Angie, for Ms. Heinrich and Ms. Weems to serve as our designate and our alternate.
Discussion.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
We need a roll call on
Roll
it.
call, okay, sorry, roll call, sorry.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries. So our representatives are Ms. Heinrich, and then the designated and the alternate is Ms. Weems.
Wonderful.
Moving on to the next one.
You want to move it?
Sure. I'll start with, I move that the board designees support candidate Mark Katz for one of the two open positions on the Oakland Schools Intermediate School District Board of Education, each for a term of 6 years ending June 30, 2030, and directs the designated representative to vote for that candidate at least on the first ballot taken at the June 3rd, 2024 election.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Rich to cast a vote for Mark Katz, supported by Ms. Weems.
I'm not Ms.
Smith?
Weems.
I couldn't hear who it came from.
Ms. Smith.
Ms. Smith? Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay.
We can start with that one, sure. I move that the Board of Education, sorry, one moment. I move that the Board of Education by resolution supports candidate Carol Finkelstein for one of the 2 open positions on the Oakland Schools Intermediate School District Board of Education, each for a term of 6 years ending June 30, 2030, and directs the designated representatives to vote for that candidate at least on the first ballot taken at the June 3rd, 2024 election.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Rich, supported by Ms. Heinrich, to elect Carol Finkelstein as our other candidate for the Oakland Schools Board of Education. Any discussion? Yes.
Just one last thing is both of these are designating, having our designates do these votes for the first ballot. Sometimes if there isn't a majority, it then changes who is able to be voted for, which then, as our designates, that is then up to them to use their best judgment as to who to be supporting in the following round.
All right. Thank you. Then let's go ahead with a roll call vote.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Ms. Fox?
No.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Finally, we have approval of the principal at Hillside Elementary School recommendation.
I didn't hear.
Yes.
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of Tori Maas as principal of Hillside Elementary School.
Support.
Ms.
Motion.
Smith.
Thank you. Ms. Weems is recommending the approval of Tori Maas as principal at Hillside, seconded by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Ken? Sure.
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to expenditures.
Sorry. Thank you. I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated May 21st, 2024 as follows. From the general fund, $12,203,581. From athletics, $71,059. From the debt fund, $500. From the capital projects 2020 bond fund, $728,874. From the 23 bond fund, $470,638. From the Nutrition Services Fund, $465,387. From the Benefit Stabilization Fund, $1,419,774, for a total of $15,359,813.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich, to accept the expenditures. Any discussion? All right, let's go ahead to a roll call vote.
You can do that one by voice.
We can? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Yes, Mr. Rich.
I move that the Board of Education approve the May 21, 2024 consent agenda as follows. A, approval of minutes. That's for the May 7th, 2024 regular meeting and May 16th, 2024 Policy and Board Governance Committee. B, Head Start Director's Monthly Report. And C, personnel items.
Second.
Motion to accept the consent agenda by Mr. Rich, seconded by Ms. Weems. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Reports from board representatives. Yes.
Student roundtable. I have a whole page of notes, but I won't read them all.
Thank
I'll
you.
just go over the highlights.
Thank you.
steal your thunder.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes. So anyways, yeah, congratulations to the Student Roundtable for carrying out their career fair. They, I just want to point out that they postponed their meeting because a lot of the kids had AP exams that they were committed to. There was a little glitch that Farmington Central High School students didn't have their calendar, and so they pulled up a Google Meet so that they were able to participate virtually and participate in the minutes in the meeting, so yay for technology. They went through and they talked about the career fair, the debrief. They agreed that there were a good amount of careers, that the mock intervals went well. They talked about crowd control and things like that, things that were unexpected, things that they learned from it. They had mock interviews and resume building in the auxiliary gym, and they thought that it wasn't advertised enough and it wasn't promoted enough, and they actually thought that before their next career fair to start with a workshop on resume building and mock interview skills in advance to prepare the students so that when they get to the career fair. The kids thought that there was one booth that had food, and so that had a line and a waiting list, and so they thought that if they had like a pre-session with their presenters, one of the things that they noticed that the people that came from businesses and careers, they were used to presenting to other adults and weren't necessarily prepared to present to students. And so one of the learning things that they're taking away is before to have a pre-meeting with the people that are going to come and talk about just some suggestions of things that work well with students as far as having little interactive activities for them is really a hit. So to have volunteers, and they talked about the time frame also, and yeah, there was some glitches. One of the things that I'm always impressed with Dr. Delgado and working with these students, because these are student leaders, is he asked them, he said, because you're student leaders, he said, what have you learned about leadership and pulling off the career fair? Okay, and then the kids went through, and their answers were so thoughtful. I was really impressed. But they talked about leadership requires a lot of communication, requires flexibility, communication, cooperation was repeated, the importance of having deadlines, things like that, important to stay on task, being receptive to feedback, and when problems arise, they had to separate out their emotions. So that was kind of nice. And the other thing is the Student Roundtable meets in this room, and we have the profile of the lifelong learner in this room as it's in their buildings. And it's not something that the district just has, but it's something that we really are living into, because the second question is, how does the leadership align with the profile of the lifelong learner? And these kids I'm just so impressed by their answers. But they were like, well, we're resilient problem solvers. We're strategic communicators. We're empowered collaborators. I mean, they just went down the list and they saw all those things that they used in order to put this together. So I was really impressed with that. They had elections for their officers for next year. And they do elections like with technology. But they have nominations, and then these kids have to give a little speech on why they should elect, and they just sit there and they come up. Some of them like type something out on their phone and read it. Some of them just speak, but they're just so well spoken. I mean, I would have voted for all of them. It's too bad you couldn't have all of the leaders. And then they send out a Google form, and so they just vote on the Google form, and then they announce the things. And so they're all set with a nice leadership team for next year, and it's really a nice thing that we have in our district, and so something that we should be proud of.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
It needs to be redone.
Okay. Any other board reports? Nope. All right. Then we are adjourned. Thank you all.